Hi, everybody. Let's talk about questions, especially the ones you're afraid might sound stupid. We all have questions we hesitate to ask. I know it's easy to think, well, I don't want to look silly in front of others. But here's the truth. If you ask that question, chances are 80% of the people in the room are wondering the same thing. They're just as curious as you are, but maybe a little too hesitant to voice it. By asking, you're not only helping yourself, but you're also helping others. After all, you only have to ask a stupid question once. And you never have to ask it again because now you know. Add an anecdote about an obvious question someone asked that changed everyone's understanding. And here we could expand by creating a few scenarios illustrating this point, showing someone gradually tackling small changes in their routine. Now, when we talk about change, it's easy to feel overwhelmed. People think, I have to make big changes to see big results, but that's not true. Growth is all about micro improvements, tiny incremental steps. Think of it like climbing a mountain, where each step is small but crucial. With each step, you're building your endurance, your strength, and before you know it, you're halfway up the mountain. So start small, real small, with changes you know you can manage. Then keep going. Insert real-life examples of successful people who implemented micro-improvements. Let's switch gears to truthfulness, something that can be surprisingly hard to achieve. Most of us have been in situations where we say things to impress others or avoid conflict, even if it's not what we genuinely believe. But let me ask you this, if you're not speaking your truth, who is? If you're always tailoring your words to fit what you think others want to hear, then you're letting something else, something artificial, control your life. Explore a detailed scenario where someone's life is transformed by choosing honesty over manipulation. Let's talk about the value of books, particularly those that challenge you. One of the best things about reading is that it lets you pick the brains of some of the most brilliant people across history. Take Colonel David Hackworth's About Face, for instance. When I was on deployment, I'd read 2 or 3 pages of that book each night. It was amazing how his experiences from the Korean and Vietnam Wars resonated with my own challenges. Reading is like having these mentors on your shelf. Here, add a narrative about how readers use these lessons in practical situations, showing the effect of books on real life choices. Now, if you've ever tried reading Shakespeare, you know that each word is packed with layers of meaning. It's almost like deciphering another language, but that's what makes it so powerful. When you look closely at words, you start to understand their deeper significance. Words carry history, culture, emotion, even evolution in a sense. And since we think in words, knowing the depth of language is almost like knowing yourself. It changes how you communicate and how you think. We could add examples here, showing how breaking down language Shakespearean or otherwise can change how one interprets important documents, or even their interactions with others. We are wired for progress, for the uphill climb. Life is meant to be dynamic and challenging, not a sequence of effortless moments. Picture the traditional dream of relaxing on a beach, doing nothing. It sounds great for a short time, but after a week, you're bored, restless. The purpose lies in the challenge. That's why we always want a higher hill to climb. As humans, we find meaning through the process, not just in the result. Shin here include inspirational examples of people who set lofty goals, achieve them, and then continue to seek new challenges. Finally, let's look at how purpose and truth intersect. When you're honest with yourself, you'll naturally gravitate toward goals that feel right, that align with your values. That's when life becomes fulfilling. But to get there, you've got to accept that truth can be uncomfortable. It's even painful at times. It requires you to confront your flaws, to be open to change, and to let go of the urge to control every outcome. True fulfillment comes from pursuing a path that's genuinely yours. Wrap up with a story about someone who changed their life by embracing their truth and pursuing a meaningful goal. Imagine we're sitting down together for a meaningful conversation, where I'm walking you through some of life's biggest questions. The first step here is realizing that life has its challenges, and we each have a role in deciding how we face them. Let's start small, all right? Let's talk about taking responsibility, at least for yourself. Maybe you've seen it in someone around you. They may not be changing the world, but they've taken charge of their life. They're handling their own issues, standing on their own 2 feet. That's something, isn't it? There's a kind of strength in knowing that someone isn't going to drop everything and demand everyone else fix their problems for them. It's refreshing when people show they're at least trying to look after themselves. They're choosing to do something, even if it's not always easy. But here's the thing, what if you went even further? What if instead of just getting by, you aim to go beyond that? Imagine not only taking care of yourself, but also looking out for your family. Imagine being able to step up when it counts, not just for you, but for the people close to you. And who knows, maybe you could go further still. Maybe you could take care of yourself, your family, and even give back to your community. That would be something, wouldn't it? That's what we're talking about when we talk about responsibility, about having a real aim. Yeah, it's taking on roles that matter. What's powerful about that? Well, when you take on responsibility, your life starts to gain a kind of meaning it didn't have before. It becomes about something more than just surviving, about more than just getting through each day. There's a goal to work towards, something bigger than yourself. And without that, what is there? If you wake up each morning without something to aspire to, what gives you purpose? Having aspirations isn't just nice, it's vital. It's about knowing there's something worth striving for. And if you can't see that, if you start questioning why we even need things like hierarchies or values, then you're taking away the very idea of aspiration itself. And without aspirations, people lose hope. They lose a reason to get out of bed in the morning. People are meant to take on challenges. We're built for it. We need something to strive for, something to push against. In fact, there's a certain type of strength that only comes from carrying a heavy load and doing it willingly. And that's what I mean when I say, see if you can put yourself together. Life isn't going to wait for you. So challenge yourself to rise to the occasion. Challenge yourself to be better, to see what you can accomplish out there in the world. Because let's face it, life isn't an endless game. We've only got so much time here. And if you're not doing something worthwhile, what's the point? Now, if you're in a tough spot, if you're in real hardship, let me tell you something that's an opportunity. It might not feel like it, but in those moments, you have the chance to make things better. That's true of life in general. When you bind yourself to it, when you really commit to it, you start finding layers you didn't see before. And that commitment, that embracing of life's realities, is where you'll find meaning. You're built to walk uphill, to strive for something higher. Because once you reach one goal, there's another one on the horizon. That's how life works. It's the climb itself that gives us value. And if you think about it, most of the positive emotions we feel come from moving toward a goal, from knowing we're making progress. What's interesting about this is that, in a sense, you want a goal that's always just out of reach. You want something you can keep working towards, something that keeps you striving. That's how you stay engaged, stay motivated. And there's nothing more powerful than the ability to express yourself clearly, to put your thoughts into words. Being able to communicate effectively, that's a game changer. Sure, physical strength has its place, but verbal competence, that's what makes you truly formidable. In today's world, there are so many options, so many paths you could take. It can be hard to know what's right for you. One way to figure that out is by focusing on what bothers you, on the challenges that really get under your skin. Those are often the places where you should be directing your energy. By leaning into what's uncomfortable, you can find your strengths and maybe even discover your purpose. And be honest with yourself about your abilities, your interests, and even your limitations. Don't try to be someone you're not. Focus on the path that aligns with your values, with who you are at your core. Life will throw all kinds of things at you, but you'll notice that some things resonate with you more than others. Certain issues will stick with you, nagging at you, making you feel like you need to do something about them. Those are your problems to solve. And when you find something that truly grips you, that's when you've found a question worth answering. Don't assume you already know the answer. Stay open to learning. Stay curious. It's like a mystery you want to unravel. And if you keep that sense of wonder, who knows what insights you might find. It's important to approach this with a sense of humility. Admitting you don't have all the answers opens up space for growth. It's like acknowledging a mystery in the world and wanting to dive deeper into it. And when you ask yourself real questions that matter, you might be surprised by the answers that come to you. Those thoughts don't come from nowhere. They come from somewhere deep within, maybe from a place that knows what you need to hear. If you want to become your best self, the first step is to face life's challenges head on. You have to be honest about the difficulties you're facing. That can be terrifying, but it's also essential. If you want to make a difference, you have to start by acknowledging the problem. It's easy to get overwhelmed, to feel paralyzed by the scope of it all. But once you decide to take responsibility, to do something about it, you're already on your way to finding purpose. That's not a small thing. It's actually the foundation for a meaningful life. Because when you take on something that really matters, it gives you a reason to get up in the morning. If you want a life that matters, you have to realize that your actions actually have an impact. It's not just about you, it's about the effect you have on the world. Think about your past, about the times you fell short, about the things you could have done better. Take responsibility for those moments. That kind of honesty, it changes things. It might even change the world. The more you take this seriously, the more you'll see the ripple effects. The tighter you bind yourself to this path, the more you'll discover about life's depth and meaning. And that's powerful. We're all bound to make mistakes, so don't be afraid of that. I often tell people, especially when they're trying to build a vision or a plan, to just make a start. Make a plan, even if it's imperfect. Implement it. You'll learn as you go. Every mistake will teach you something valuable. It's a process of discovery, of gradually refining your path by comparing who you are today with who you were yesterday. That's where real growth happens, in those small daily improvements. If you spend all your time comparing yourself to others, you'll lose sight of what really matters. Life is full of challenges and mysteries, and sometimes solutions seem to come from nowhere. They arrive when you need them, almost as if there's a part of you that knows the answer already. But to get there, you have to be open to seeing things differently. Sure, there are endless ways to interpret the world, but not all of them are helpful or sustainable. The goal is to find a perspective that allows you to live meaningfully, that doesn't create more problems for you down the road. There's power in admitting that your current way of thinking might not be. Are you listening? Me? Okay. When you're pursuing something meaningful, you're going to hit those moments where you question everything. It's natural, it's part of the journey. But let me tell you something. When those moments come, don't avoid them. Don't try to shove them away. Because it's in those moments of doubt that you learn the most about yourself. That's when your true character is revealed. How do you handle the uncertainty? How do you react when the path ahead is unclear? That's when you truly discover what you're made of. We often avoid discomfort, right? We do everything we can to keep ourselves comfortable, to keep our lives predictable and easy. But I'm here to tell you that comfort is overrated. The real growth, the real development happens outside of that comfort zone. It's easy to stay within the lines, to follow the path that's been laid out for you. But true freedom comes when you break out of that mold, when you start thinking for yourself and pursuing what truly matters to you, not what others expect of you. When you start stepping outside that comfort zone, you'll notice something incredible. The world opens up. Your perspective changes. You begin to see possibilities where you used to see obstacles. You start realizing that the only thing standing between you and what you want is your own fear, your own reluctance to take the first step. And that fear is natural. Everyone experiences it. But the difference between those who achieve great things and those who don't is simple. It's the willingness to take that first step anyway, despite the fear. There's a saying, I love courage is not the absence of fear. It's the willingness to act despite it. That's the mindset you need. The fear is never going to completely disappear, but you can choose to move forward regardless. You have to push through the doubts and the uncertainty and just go for it. And when you do, you'll find that fear starts to lose its power over you. It becomes less intimidating the more you face it. But it's that first step, the one where you decide to go for it despite the fear, that changes everything. When you start embracing challenges, when you start facing your fears head on, something remarkable happens. You begin to gain confidence, not the kind of superficial confidence that comes from external validation, but the kind that comes from within. The confidence that comes from knowing you can handle whatever life throws at you. The confidence that comes from realizing that you are capable of more than you ever imagined. And that confidence becomes a self-reinforcing cycle. The more you face your fears and push through them, the more confident you become. And the more confident you are, the more willing you are to take on even bigger challenges. This is the kind of growth that transforms your life. This is the kind of confidence that can't be taken away by anyone else, because it's built on a foundation of action, of doing things that scare you and surviving them. And that's the kind of confidence you need if you're going to achieve anything meaningful in life. It's not about being fearless. It's about being brave enough to take action despite the fear. But here's the thing, none of this will matter if you don't have clarity. I can talk all day about the importance of overcoming fear, of stepping outside your comfort zone, but none of it will mean anything if you don't know where you're going. You need to have a clear vision of what you want in life. Without that vision, you're just floating in the wind with no direction, no purpose. And let me tell you, life will pass you by if you don't take the time to figure out what you want. Now, you might be thinking, I don't know what I want yet, and that's okay. Not everyone has everything figured out right away. But here's the thing, you can't wait for clarity to come to you. You have to go out and seek it. You have to actively search for it. And the best way to do that is by trying things, by putting yourself in different situations, by exploring what excites you and what doesn't. You might not find your calling right away, but you'll learn a lot about yourself in the process. And over time, those lessons will add up. They'll give you the clarity you need to make decisions, to set goals, and to know where you're headed. So don't be afraid to explore. Don't be afraid to try new things, to take risks, because even if you fail, even if it doesn't work out the way you hoped, you'll have learned something invaluable. You'll have learned what works for you, what doesn't, and what you're truly passionate about. And that, my friend, is a win. Because life isn't about getting everything right the first time. It's about experimenting, about learning, about adapting, and about growing. The more you try, the more you'll learn, and the clearer your path will become. And don't forget about the people around you. I know it's easy to think of life as an individual journey, but the truth is we need each other. We need a community, a support system, people who will lift us up when we fall. Don't try to do everything alone. Seek out people who inspire you, who challenge you, who make you think differently. Surround yourself with people who are on the same journey of growth and self-discovery, because those people will help push you forward when you're feeling stuck. They'll hold you accountable, encourage you when you're down, and remind you of your worth when you forget it. And let me be clear, this isn't about surrounding yourself with people who always agree with you or tell you what you want to hear. It's about surrounding yourself with people who are willing to challenge you, to tell you when you're wrong, to help you grow. The best kind of support is the kind that pushes you to be better, not the kind that lets you stay where you are. But at the end of the day, the most important thing is this: you have to take ownership of your life. You have to take responsibility for where you are and where you're going. Stop blaming your circumstances, your past, or the people around you for where you are. It's easy to fall into the trap of thinking that the world owes you something, but the truth is the world doesn't owe you anything. Life is about what you make of it. It's about the choices you make every single day. Take control of your decisions. Take control of your time. Take control of your future. And once you do, once you take full responsibility for your life, you'll start to see things change. Because when you take ownership, you stop waiting for things to happen, you make them happen. And that's when life starts to get exciting. That's when you start to create the life you truly want. May God bless you all. Thanks.